The next is my second favorite thing in BGW, and it's the pre-construction process. And this is where we really go into a lot of biblical direction in terms of really saving incredible amounts of money. And this next couple of things we're going to talk about are the most effective way to save money on a building project that we know of. We had gone through, and we had 12 years ago or 13 years ago, I started building God's Way Supply, and I went to manufacturers and said, we want to buy products the way Walmart and Costco buy products and when they build their buildings, except we want to actually buy it a little cheaper because the schools and churches are more important than more Walmarts to the fabric of our country. And we didn't get everybody to give it to us cheaper, but we did get them to give it to us at the pricing levels that they were at, which is really an important situation. And we came up with design concepts that save money. We came up with ways of actually doing process that were really good, and kind of ran out of good ideas a number of years ago. Kind of said, man, I don't think we can get any more efficient than we're getting, and continued to pray about what we should do. And God really spoke to me one day and said, you know, the real problem is you. And that's not one anybody wants to hear. But you know, I tell people the reason that architects put 10-foot high doors in their rooms is so they will fit through them. You know, that's and sometimes our egos get way ahead of anything else, and because our egos do, we really don't listen to people very well. You know, I've been doing this 40 years. I don't think that I need to have a mechanical guy tell me how to do something, or you know, I don't need to listen to a sheetrocker or a framer or a carpet layer, or any of these other people, because I know it all. That's the strategy that's out there. And so what we do is really go out and do two things. We get people that are linked to the church. If in any one of your churches, you're going to find people that are in the construction industry, know people in the construction industry, or related to people in the construction industry. They might be people that you go on vacation with, your next door neighbors. They could be you. Or members of the church or wherever they're at, and they're in these trades. And so we want them to be involved in the project. Hilbers has people in this neighborhood that are in the same position. They're in the trades, and they've done a lot of work with them in these areas, and in this area here specifically. And so they invite them to the table. And we sit down with every one of them before the final decisions are made, and we say, here's the project, here's the scope of the project, and we do it by trade. So for instance, we'd have all the mechanical contractors together, and it's you 5 people here at this table. And we basically would say, this is how we're proposing to go do this, and this is why we're proposing to do it that way. But what we want you to do, you 5 mechanical contractors, who are all somewhat related to the general contractor or to the church, is look at this as if this was your building. And you had to pay for the mechanical system, and you had to pay for the maintenance. You had to pay for the utilities that were involved in that. How would you do that differently than the way that we are thinking about doing it? And none of you will tell us on the spot that that's what you're going to do, because your competitors are sitting at the table. You know, that's about the last thing you're going to do. But we also say you've had a chance, because we give them our drawings the day before, or a couple of days before, and you've had a chance to look at where we're at so far. Do you see some things that are a real problem? And you will love to do that in front of the church, because we have the church people there at that time, and you'd love to show an architect that they made mistakes. And so those comments come out pretty easily. And we welcome that, because I'd rather find a mistake or a process that isn't going to work before we start construction than during construction. One of the reasons we have very, very few change orders on a project. And so, but what literally happens is that you go back and look at what is the best way to do it. You call us, give us input. We don't change the drawings so that everybody bids that. We just say, yes, that's fine. Why don't you go ahead and price that out that way? Yes, that's fine. Why don't you add that to what you're trying to do? And put together a price. We bring in all your bids. At one point, we will select one of those companies who's going to be the one that does the project. And we tell you up front that at the end of the day, we will never give your price or your idea to another subcontractor until the decision has been made of which mechanical contractor we're going to use. And once we make the decision and we say, okay, you're it, then we will go to you and say, there's been 4 other good ideas besides yours, and we'd like to incorporate all of them into this concept of what it is. And we will ultimately have the very best way to build that mechanical that's going to be the most economical, give us the best maintenance and the best utilities. And we do that with every single trade. Then we have the church meet with us, and the reason the church is there is not to hear where we make mistakes. They do get to hear that. But where the church is there is they have a time to talk to you as mechanical contractors and say, let us tell you about the church. This is what our goals and objectives are. This is what difference we make in the community. This is what would mean if we weren't here tomorrow, what would be lost in this particular community. And the other thing we ask you to do is, would you go back to your suppliers, when it's the final contractor, by the way, not all of you, but we'll say then we're going to be asking you to go back to your suppliers, the people you buy a lot of products from, would you see if they would discount those to the church for this specific project, and would you pass that on? And then the last thing that we do is ask that successful person, will you give us a guaranteed maximum price and work on a time and material basis on the rest of that project? And the reason that that is so important, and that's why we finish jobs 4% under when we're all done, is that if the project goes really well, you can still make your profit, you can still make your overhead, and you can still have money left over at the end of the project. So that's how that comes together. We really want your special wisdom, and we really want you to be able to go after gifts. So this slide here goes through what I was just talking about, but seeking their wisdom, their engineering, their way of doing things. Interestingly, if I brought, and we get sometimes 80 or 90 people at those meetings during that whole day, and there will not be 2 that will say they've ever done that before. That they just say, we love this process. Nobody's ever asked us before. They typically get sent a set of drawings, say, this is what you've got to do, you can't change from it, and you've got to bid it. And they're, but wait, I could show you, no, bid it. But I could show you how to say, no, you just bid it. That's how it works. And that's the most expensive way to do it, and generally maybe the most expensive to operate.